Good morning, everybody. I want to welcome all of you to the Chicago Medicine Comer Children's Hospital. My name is John Cunningham, and I'm the Chief of the Department of Pediatrics, Chair of the Department of Pediatrics, and the Physician-in-Chief of Comer Children's. I want to welcome Mayor Lightfoot, Dr. Arwady, the Director of the Chicago Department of Public Health, and my colleagues from the major healthcare organizations across our city who care for the health of our children. This week has been a long time coming for pediatric healthcare providers, for parents, and most importantly for children. With FDA and CDC approval of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine for children aged 5 to 11 years of age, we are now able to vaccinate 28 million children across the nation and over 1.5 million children across our region who require this vaccine. Don't be in any doubt, not only is this a safe and a highly effective vaccine needed to protect our community, but it is necessary as we can protect every child in our community who may be susceptible to the rare but potentially lethal complications of COVID-19 infection. We all stand here committed to the principle that every child should be vaccinated. Over the next few minutes, we will hear how the city and our children's healthcare organizations are working together to make this commitment a reality and to answer the questions that parents have about the vaccine. Now I'd like to invite Mayor Lightfoot to the podium.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Cunningham, and thank you to all of your colleagues who are here with us and the legion of pediatric healthcare providers who are going to be joining in this effort to make sure that we get our kids a safe vaccine. It's my pleasure to join city, healthcare, and community leaders here today to discuss the recent shift in eligibility for the Pfizer vaccine, which now includes all children aged 5 to 11. The approval of this life-saving vaccine for our kids is a significant accomplishment that will benefit our entire city. And as Dr. Cunningham said, this has been a question that's been on the mind of parents and many since we started talking about the vaccines for adults. Parents and guardians will now have the opportunity to ensure the safety of their young ones, which will not only make the spaces in which they interact with others safe, but propel us towards accomplishing our citywide goal of vaccinating as many of our residents as possible. Just like every other announcement that we've made about vaccines through this pandemic, our message remains the same. The vaccine is safe, it is free, and it is widely available and fundamentally is the best defense that we have against COVID-19. Whether you're 5 years old or 85 years old. Like other pediatric vaccines, the COVID-19 vaccine was thoroughly tested before being recommended. Clinical trials with thousands of children 5 years and older showed that Pfizer COVID-19 to be safe and effective. And millions of adolescents in the U.S. have received vaccines on the most intensive safety monitoring in U.S. history. And although there have been fewer COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations among children, the long-term effects of a pediatric COVID-19 case can be serious and last for months. With the rollout of the pediatric COVID-19 vaccine, we have an important opportunity to further protect the lives of our youngest residents from this virus and its variants, to ensure that they are able to learn, play safely with peers, and overall facilitate a safe return to a sense of normalcy. I know that many parents out there are breathing a huge sigh of relief. Furthermore, just like any other vaccine rollout we facilitated over this past year, equity and inclusion will be at the center of this one as well, as hospitalization rates are 3 times higher for Black, Latinx, and American Indian children. As I've said many times throughout the course of this crisis, we all have an important role to play when it comes to protecting one another. And we must eliminate any and all barriers that threaten to keep residents, especially those who are the most vulnerable to COVID-19, from taking up their shared responsibility and ending this crisis. That's why we're calling upon you to protect your health on next Friday, November 12th. Next Friday, city employees will have 2 hours of paid time to take their children to get vaccinated, as well as get vaccinated for the first time themselves or to get a booster shot. COVID-19 vaccines for children and adults are now available across the city right now. For a list of locations, please go to chicago.gov/COVID-vax. That's chicago.gov/COVIDVax. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my hope and expectation that other institutions and businesses will follow the city's lead and allow their workers to also take time off on the 12th or any other day to vaccinate themselves and their young ones. After all, investing in the safety of our residents, regardless of their age, is an investment in our city's future and puts us one step closer to putting this pandemic behind us once and for all. I'm thankful to the many city, healthcare, and community leaders for making this moment possible and all of the hard work they've done over the past 20 months to keep our residents and our city safe. Only by working together can we move forward into the post-pandemic healthy future that we all crave and that we all deserve. So thank you all. And right now I'd like to bring up our Public Health Commissioner, Dr. Allison Arwady.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you so much to all of my pediatric colleagues who are here today or across the city. It has been a fantastic couple of days planning for and starting to vaccinate 5 to 11-year-olds here in Chicago. We're joined today by leaders in pediatric medicine. Obviously, Dr. Cunningham from the University of Chicago for hosting us. Thank you. Dr. Allison Bartlett, pediatric infectious diseases here at University of Chicago. Dr. Frank Belmonte from Advocate Children's Hospital, Dr. Larry Kosiolek from Lurie Children's Hospital, Dr. Marielle Friccione from Rush Children's Hospital, and Dr. Rachel Kasky, Pediatric Primary Care, University of Illinois Health. That was a long list because there are a lot of pediatricians who are absolutely thrilled to be spreading the word about this safe, effective, and very available vaccine here in Chicago. I promised you last week this wouldn't be like the Hunger Games, and it's not. There's about 210,000 Chicagoans between the ages of 5 and 11. Already, as of yesterday, Chicago had received more than 50,000 pediatric doses for that age group, and we're on track to have received about 100,000 by next Friday. That's the part of the reason we're really promoting next Friday, Protect Your Health on the 12th. You're going to hear that CPS will be having a day off for promoting vaccine. You've heard the mayor say that that day, City of Chicago employees will have 2 hours off to get themselves a booster because it's also about 2 weeks before Thanksgiving next Friday. If you're due for a booster, get it then so that you're able to be the most protected as possible for gathering. And please aim to have your 5 to 11-year-old also having gotten their first dose by then so that they can start to get that protection we can all gather by the time of Thanksgiving. But really today is about the kids. And I've been talking to my own young nieces and nephews in this age group. They're a little nervous because there's been a lot of conversation about this shot, but they're also really excited because they've been hearing for more than a year that as soon as they can get that vaccine, they'll be able to do the things that they love. They've been asking me, because they know I work in this space, can I come to Chicago? Do you have a way to get this earlier? And I told them no, but I was really pleased to be able to start telling them on Wednesday that they now could do it, and it's just great to be in this place. So really, with that, encourage you to make your plans to get your vaccine sometime between now and protect yourself on the 12th, and I'll turn it over to Pedro Martinez, the CEO of Chicago Public Schools. Thanks again for being here and for sharing our excitement in this move forward.
Thank you, Dr. Arwady. Thank you, Mayor Lightfoot, and all of our amazing medical professionals. This is a historic day. It has just been a few days since we had our 5 to 11-year-old vaccines being approved. Quiero pedirle gracias a la doctora Arwady, a nuestro alcalde, todos los profesionales médicos que están aquí. Este día es tan importante porque ya están aprobados ya las vacunas para niños de 5 a 11 años. It was a difficult decision for us to cancel classes on Friday the 12th, and I know that it's creating challenges for our parents. We are working with the Park District, we're working with the libraries, we're working with our community providers to provide family support. But it is so important. It is so important as we look at the rest of the school year to make this key investment now, to make sure that our children can get vaccinated. Yo sé que es difícil para nuestros padres que tuvimos que cancelar clases el día 12 de noviembre, pero es tan importante ahorita para hacer la inversión para el resto del año para nuestros niños, porque tenemos que empezar a protegerlos. We have to start protecting our children. We know the holidays are coming. We have seen historically how cases rise right after the holidays, and we are still quarantining children today. We're still pulling children out. We're reducing the quarantine period, but I'll tell you, every time I see a child being quarantined, it's just I know it's another hardship for our families. It's a hardship for our teachers. Yo sé que ahorita que nuestros niños todavía tenemos casos, aunque estén bajos, pero tenemos que sacarlos de los salones. Es tan difícil para los padres, es tan difícil para nuestros maestros. Recibiendo las vacunas para nuestros niños que están seguras, están gratis, no les van a pedir nada de están trabajando con su inmigración, no van a tener que preocuparse de nada de eso. The shots are free, the shots are safe. Our families who may be undocumented, none of that information is requested. I just urge all of our families to get vaccinated. Tenemos que empezar a proteger a nuestros niños. Nosotros sabemos que en las Navidades con familias que se juntan siempre tenemos más casos, y cuando tenemos más casos tenemos que sacar más niños de los salones y no tenemos estabilidad en los salones. With the holidays, the risk is when we have more cases, we have to quarantine more children. It creates instability in our classrooms. So again, parents, I know this is hard, but we need, myself as a father of a 5 to 11-year-old, as soon as the news came out, I'll tell you, every time my wife and I go out with our children, we always have to worry, is this the day? Is this the day that our children are going to get COVID? Is this the day of something that they could be put at risk? And so I know as all parents, we all worry about that. So again, I urge all of our families, please, November 12th, we're going to have our vaccination clinics open. We're going to have our not only our regional sites, we'll have mobile clinics. We're working with Dr. Arwady so that we can partner with all of our healthcare providers. As the mayor said, thank you, Mayor, for your leadership. City employees are going to be given 2 hours to be able to go vaccinate their own children. We ourselves, our central office team and network team will all be working. So we're also going to allow our employees to take some time to vaccinate their children. I'm urging all of my teachers and principals. Again, many of them will be volunteering at different sites, but I'm urging them, please get your own children vaccinated. Ese día del 12, la ciudad está dejando los empleados de la ciudad tener 2 horas para que puedan ayudar a sus niños que estén vacunados. También voy a hacer lo mismo con los empleados de nosotros. Estoy urgiendo a todos nuestros directores, todos los maestros que lleven sus niños también para que reciban sus vacunas. Everybody, let's send a message as a city that we are going to protect our children. We're going to invest in the rest of the school year by making sure our children are safe. Thank you, everyone. And now I'm going to ask Dr. Frank Belmonte to come up. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Good morning. Good morning. This is quite an exciting week for parents and pediatricians alike, not only here in Chicago, but across the country. It now means that COVID is a preventable disease for all children over the age of 5 years. As pediatric physicians, we do understand that some parents may have hesitation to get their child the vaccine. We are here this morning to dispel the concerns that they may have. Here's what parents need to know. Studies have shown that the COVID-19 vaccine is safe and effective in clinical trials with nearly 2,300 children. Pfizer found that their vaccine was safe, well-tolerated, and showed a robust antibody response in children. Giving your child the vaccine protects them and everyone they come into contact with, including other vulnerable at-risk children and adults in our community. There has been a dramatic increase in COVID-19 in children due to the Delta variant. Over 5 million children have been diagnosed in the U.S., thousands have been hospitalized, and over 600 children nationwide have died from what is now a preventable illness. A COVID-19 related condition called the pediatric multisystem inflammatory syndrome is also a life-threatening condition, and we have seen multiple cases here in Chicago and thousands across the nation. Children have died from this condition as well. We still do not know the long-term effects of COVID-19. If your child gets COVID, it could negatively impact their future health. I have heard so many parents over the last few weeks say, I'm going to wait and see. Now is not the time for wait and see. With the holidays just around the corner, get your child vaccinated. Let's put an end to this pandemic. I now welcome Dr. Allison Bartlett to the podium.
Thank you. I'd like to speak for a moment about the science and the data behind this vaccine for our 5 to 11-year-olds. In these clinical trials that included over 3,000 children who received the vaccine and many more who received a placebo or saline injection, this was built on the knowledge gained from clinical trials and real-world experience from the millions of doses given to 12 to 17-year-olds and adults, and from the decades of science and research that went into the development of the mRNA vaccine technology itself. In addition to all the effort and science and study that went into the trials for the vaccines, I want to highlight that we're administering these vaccines under the most intensive vaccine safety monitoring effort in U.S. history. Both existing and new systems have been developed to track vaccines. The most important part of the vaccine trials in these younger children was to find the right dose that maximizes their immune response and minimizes the side effects. A dose that is 1/3 of the dose that we're giving to adults and older children is the right amount for young children's healthy, active immune systems to generate an antibody response that's similar to that we've seen for adolescents and young adults and protects them against infection. Kids 5 to 11 see the same types of side effects with the vaccine as older adults. Soreness at the injection site, tiredness, muscle aches, with about the same frequency. These effects last a day or two and go away. We all have to make a decision to vaccinate our children or not. Whichever you choose, there are risks and benefits associated with that decision. With that in mind, I do want to spend a moment briefly addressing a particular safety concern that I know many parents have. We have seen cases of myocarditis or inflammation of the heart in about 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 20,000 young adults, predominantly young men between the ages of 16 and 24 after vaccination. It's very important to know that COVID-19 infection and the pediatric multisystem inflammatory syndrome that Dr. Belmonte just mentioned also cause myocarditis, and they cause myocarditis that is more severe and much more frequent. To say it again, the risk of myocarditis with vaccine is much lower, and the illness it causes is much less severe and goes away on its own. There were no cases of myocarditis seen in the 5 to 11-year-old group that were involved in this trial. But again, our extensive monitoring systems are going to remain in place to continue to learn more. I want to take my doctor hat off for a moment and put my mom hat on. I've got 3 sons. I have twins who turned 12 last month. That was never a very big, exciting, monumental birthday until last month. They got their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine shortly after their birthday. They're going to get their second dose on Tuesday. I also have a 9-year-old who's here with us behind me today who is going to get his vaccine later today. I am so excited that we are going to be a fully protected family by mid-December. Clinical trials in children and the intense scrutiny have shown the science is clear. The benefits of the vaccine far outweigh the risk. Vaccinating children ages 5 to 11 protects them from infection, protects them from the post-COVID effects like the long COVID syndrome and the multi-system inflammatory syndrome, keeps them in the classroom, allows them to get back to normal. It also contributes to community immunity, helping to keep their family, friends, classmates, teachers, and the rest of the community safe. Thank you. And I will turn it over now to Dr. Larry Kosiolik.
Thank you so much. As a parent, I also share the excitement about having a fully vaccinated household soon and make it safer for my children to see their grandparents, to eventually travel, and to make schools safer, and to ultimately really turn the page on this pandemic. That's ultimately our goal. But as an infectious diseases physician, I'm here to talk about remaining vigilant for other infections, particularly influenza. COVID-19 risk mitigation strategies have had the unintended consequences of greatly reducing many other infections in children. This summer, for example, reminded us that we have to be vigilant for other viruses that we normally see in the winter that could return. Respiratory syncytial virus, also known as RSV, is a virus that normally causes very severe respiratory illness in infants and toddlers. Last winter, we didn't see any RSV. This summer, when restrictions lifted, kids returned to school and daycare, we saw a resurgence of RSV, and kids were admitted across the hospital in record volumes for that time of year, many of whom went into the intensive care unit. Similarly, we did not see any influenza last winter, but we fear that just like RSV, soon influenza will make a resurgence. Influenza hospitalizes as many as 25,000 children a year in the United States. On a mild year, several dozen children die of influenza. On a bad year, several hundred die of influenza. 80% of those deaths occur in individuals who are not vaccinated against the flu. Flu vaccine not only prevents deaths, but it prevents hospitalizations and prevents intensive care unit admissions. Fortunately, we know that vaccines can be given at the same time to children safely and effectively. We've been giving vaccines in combination to children for decades without any compromise in safety or effectiveness. For these reasons, the CDC advises that all individuals should be vaccinated against COVID-19 and influenza this season. Those vaccines can safely be given at the same time or within a short period of each other. Thus, myself and the pediatric leaders here today are advocating that everybody remains up to date, not only for their other scheduled vaccines, but also influenza vaccine as well. Thank you. I'd now like to welcome Dr. Mariel Frechon from Rush University.
Hi, everyone. I'm here to talk about how the pediatric COVID vaccine is different from the adult version. So the first thing you should know about the pediatric vaccine for 5 to 11-year-olds is that the vial is orange, a really nice bright orange, not purple, which my daughter is upset about, but I think many kids will love. More importantly, the new pediatric vaccine is 1/3 of a dose, like Dr. Bartlett mentioned, and it's only 0.2 milliliters, which is just half a teaspoonful of liquid, compared to 0.3 milliliters for the 12-year-old and up vaccine. It also is delivered through a slightly shorter needle, not any different than we do for other routine vaccines. The scientists who conducted the trials, like Dr. Bartlett mentioned, picked 1/3 of the original dose for kids because it gave an equal immune response and had fewer side effects. And I'm reinforcing that because I think it's really important for parents to know how closely they thought about the dose for kids. Kids will get 2 doses 21 days apart in order to teach their body how to protect itself. And they need to wait 15 minutes after vaccination for observation, just like teens and adults. Your healthcare provider will make sure all your questions are answered before the needle stick, but the process is really no different than any other routine childhood vaccine. If you, as a parent, have been vaccinated before, help your child feel like they're part of the club now when they get theirs too. And if you haven't been vaccinated yet, consider it. It may be important for them to share this experience with you, especially ahead of the holidays, so everyone can feel safer. So make it feel like a positive day for them as well as the entire family. And now I'll hand it over to Dr. Rachel Caskey to talk more about tips for parents on how to reassure kids.
So I'm going to talk for just a moment about preparing your child for vaccination. It is perfectly normal to be nervous about receiving a vaccine. Children and, frankly, many adults alike are reticent about the vaccination process. Luckily, vaccines are a normal part of pediatric and preventive health care. By age 5, most of our children are generally familiar with the process. Parents and caregivers know their child best. Strategies to prepare for vaccination should be tailored to your child and be age appropriate. Some children feel more comfortable with a detailed discussion about what to anticipate. However, for others, that process could just exacerbate anxiety. Most important is that we, as the adults discussing vaccination, remain calm. Children are very good at reading our emotions. For most kids, distraction eases anxiety. Distracting just before or perhaps during the vaccination can be helpful, whether that's telling a silly joke or using a toy or a tool to get your child's attention. Similarly, many children, and probably adults alike, are motivated by a small reward or treat after vaccination. So give them something to look forward to. Regardless of the strategy you take with your child, it is important to normalize vaccination as an important health behavior at all ages. I've approached COVID vaccination the same way I approach all vaccines with my 3 children. It is perfectly normal to be nervous, but most important, this is something we do throughout life because it is important to keep us and those around us healthy. Thank you. I'm going to invite Mayor Lightfoot to return to answer questions.
Thank you, Doctor. I'm happy to take your questions.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the media, my colleague Alejandra Flores up front, she's going to pass down the mic to you. 2 questions per reporters. Do we have any on-topic questions first? All right, Aaron from the Hyde Park Herald.
Hi, one for the CEO of CPS and one for Dr. Cunningham, actually, if you can take it. So you guys have got about a week before the vaccination day at this point. I want to refer to data from, I think, the, not the Pfizer, whatever the, no, the,
Why don't you just ask?
it's, yeah, whatever the polling firm that does all of the health reporting with NPR and that kind of thing did the study that shows about a third of parents are interested in getting the vaccine, a third want to do a wait and see, and a third are saying no right now. You guys have a lot of work to do to convince parents at this point. What is CPS's strategy to get as many parents out in the week that you guys have, at this point? Are you guys sending mailers home? Are you guys doing, online workshops or, information sessions and that kind of stuff? Can you tell more about how you're going to make the most of this day? That's a lot of, work, I would imagine.
No, absolutely. So first of all, we're so blessed to have Dr. Arwady as our partner. So we're going to work with Dr. Arwady and our own medical professional staff in CPS. So not only are we doing outreach to families, we're giving them information. We're actually giving them information on what providers are going to be available that day for families to be able to walk in. We're going to have it on our website, on the Department of Health's website. So the number one is accessibility, number one. And we're going to be, and I'm going to be doing multiple media events as well, just also pleading to employers. Please allow your employees to have some time to get their children vaccinated. The mayor's leading by example. I'm trying to lead my example with our staff. And so for us, it's going to be a full citywide effort. And as well as, like I said, I'm also going to work with the Park District and the libraries and our other providers around community school providers that can help us also with families that need childcare. But for me, I want families to know this is an investment for the rest of the school year, because we know with the holidays coming, as soon as a child has a symptom, we have to pull the child out of class. We have to quarantine. They have to get tested. It's just such a difficult process for both our for our parents, and it just creates hardships for our teachers. So you're going to hear, I'm going to be doing that all the next, through the 12th. And of course, the 12th is just the beginning. We're going to have over 80 to 100 vaccination events, just CPS alone, during the month of November, right through Christmas holiday. So we're going to be very aggressive, but we want to send a message. Let's start it off right on the 12th. So whether it's that third of parents, I would love for half of the parents, because we have enough vaccine for at least half of our 5 to 11-year-olds to get vaccinated. So again, we want to lead by example, but again, we're going to be very aggressive.
Summarize that response in Spanish.
Sí. No. La pregunta, ¿qué vamos a hacer en el distrito para apoyar a nuestros padres para que puedan, para que lleven a sus niños para recibir las vacunas? Y vamos a hacer, por ejemplo, ahora voy a tener un programa con Telemundo, pero vamos a hacer mucha información por las noticias, pero también comunicando con padres, trabajando con la doctora Arwady para que sepan todos los lugares donde van a poder tener acceso ese día, el 12, pero no nomás el 12, los meses de noviembre y diciembre vamos a tener más de 100 eventos que el distrito va a poner para que nuestros padres puedan recibir sus vacunas. Pero es muy importante que la ciudad va a dejar a sus empleados por 2 horas para que puedan recibir vacunas. Yo también estoy apoyando a mis maestros, mis directores que hagan lo mismo. Nuestros empleados que están trabajando ese día también les vamos a dar tiempo para que puedan llevar a sus niños para recibir vacunas. Voy a pedir a todas las empresas de la ciudad que por favor apoyen a sus empleados, que los dejen para que que tengan tiempo para llevar a sus niños para que reciban sus vacunas. Esto es muy importante para que proteger nuestra comunidad.
get an update regarding the status of the massive uptake in respiratory viruses that we were seeing in children. In late September, there was a big news conference at Northwestern with a bunch of representatives from our Chicago Health hospitals. About RSV was mentioned, but a couple of other ones as well. I interviewed you at that one there. Everyone here was there at that one as well. But can you give an update about whether we're still seeing the uptake or whether that's declined or anything like that?
Yeah. Well, I can also ask Dr. Belmonte and Dr. Koziolek to comment on this. We're still seeing a very high surge of respiratory illness in children in Chicagoland, and all the children's hospitals are close to full. I think that's a fair comment, right? I think children, families and children need to take appropriate precautions. Continuing to wear masks and socially distancing is actually appropriate at this time.
All right, any other on-topic questions? All right, ABC 7. Mark Rivera. Oh, I'm sorry, Carla, you have something as well? Oh, okay, got it.
Why don't we go here, and then we'll go here.
Okay, good morning. Obviously, this is an important opportunity next week. For those parents that may be frustrated trying to struggle to find childcare, what would you say to them about why this is important still?
Well, first of all, I think what we have to do is make sure that we're providing parents with the opportunity to get some support on that particular day. We're going to be doing that at the city level. You heard CEO Martinez talk about a partnership with the Park District, the libraries, and we're going to be looking at some third-party providers to provide supports for that. But the most important thing is that we get these kids vaccinated. You've heard the statistics over and over again. When you are unvaccinated, you are at extreme risk. And I know from having talked to parents of kids that are younger than my daughter, she's already had her vaccination, but they've been sitting and waiting with a lot of anxiousness about this opportunity. And we want to make sure as a city that we are standing up united across city and sister agencies, but also the private sector that I hope also takes advantage of this opportunity to really publicize both the safety of the vaccine and the wide availability of it, and that it remains free. Those little kids need to get protected. You've heard all the scientific reasons why, but just like we get children vaccinated on against a range of other childhood illnesses, this has got to be part of that regular cadence of vaccines, and we want to provide our young people and their families with every opportunity to do it. And I hope also for the adults that if you haven't gotten vaccinated yet, take that day as an opportunity to get yourself vaccinated, or take that day as an opportunity to get a booster. So there's a lot of reasons why we want to come together as a city next Friday, and we're making this announcement a week in advance to give people time to plan and come up with a plan for their family. But we really, really want to emphasize the importance of people getting vaccinated next Friday.
And are you planning any more pop-up events on that day, on the 12th,
Yes.
or vaccination events?
Yeah, I don't know if Dr. Arwady wants to speak to that, but the answer is yes. We've got a lot that we're planning for that day, and I'll let Dr. Arwady speak to the specifics.
Yeah, we'll have some more details next week, but I can tell you we anticipate there being vaccine available at more than 200 locations across the city, specifically for pediatrics, and then in almost all of those cases, having adult vaccine, adult boosters available at the same time. We're working with some of the pediatric hospitals as well as planning a little bit around some larger events. But by then, pharmacies are all going to be up and going, able to make appointments. The city will have some opportunities. And then healthcare providers. For folks who have a pediatrician, please be reaching out. Any pediatrician's office in the whole city that wants vaccine can get it. And this has been sort of the effort of, building over this next week or two and making sure that they all can receive it. As always, we prioritized vaccine for some of the hardest hit communities, some of the federally qualified health centers and other larger pediatric clinics, especially in areas that have been hardest hit. But the whole city is going to be able to receive vaccine. And I really want to emphasize the kids, but also, as you've heard, the adults. It's the opportunity for the parents, the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, the neighbors. Make it a family affair. Let's get it done. Lots of chance to do it.
Thanks, Doctor. We're going to come up front with Carla Leal from Telemundo.
This is a question for Dr. Arwady or any of the other medical experts. I know the focus right now is 5 to 11-year-olds, but what's the timeline for vaccines for those under 5? And then at the same time, the guidance for families right now that the Thanksgiving holiday is around the corner if they have children under 11.
Yeah. So, first of all, I love that every time it's sort of what is the timing on the next part. Everybody is excited for more of that. We don't have an exact date yet at this point. There are studies that have already been going on for children all the way down to the age of 6 months. I would expect, don't hold me to it, but perhaps early next year, maybe in that first quarter, we may have vaccines available for those 2 to 4-year-olds, for example. But we don't know that for sure. Always, safety comes first, and then the dosing for these young children, making sure that the right dose is in place, the safety is there. The focus right now is 5 to 11-year-olds, but I do anticipate, given that all the data looks good, that we will see it available for younger children, but probably not till 2022, most likely. Related to Thanksgiving, the most important thing is that anybody who is age eligible has gotten a vaccine around younger children who perhaps are not yet eligible. We'd love to see those 5 to 11-year-olds have at least their first dose. And if they've gotten that first dose and it's 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, for example, which is approximately where Protect Your Health on the 12th is coming in, they'll have at least the beginning of some of that protection. And for younger siblings and those who are not eligible yet, I do think, depending on the situation, there may be people choosing some, masks, et cetera, but we're taking off our masks to be able to eat. We know that. And we are in such a better place than we were last year at Thanksgiving because of vaccine. Anyone who has not yet gotten a vaccine and is age eligible in those older categories, please do try to at least have gotten that first dose in. Really, we're also aiming for the end of the year holidays. There's plenty of time to have everybody over the age of 5 fully vaccinated, fully protected by the end of the year. Cases are on the increase here in Chicago. It's gradual at this point, but when it gets cold and we move inside, just like you heard, we tend to see the respiratory viruses surge. I do expect there to continue to be some increase in cases, and I expect that very hard to fall on, unfortunately, unvaccinated families and networks. So the holidays are exciting because we're going to be able to gather in a way that is much safer than it ever has been before. But getting that booster, getting everybody to get that first dose, and then getting the children at least started is going to be key.
Thank you. We'll go all the way to the back with Jesse Echevarria from Univision.
For Mr. Martinez, is CPS planning to cancel classes so students can go and get their second doses, or are they going to be getting that absence excuse for that purpose? In Spanish, por favor, if you want to answer in English as well.
Sure. No, no tenemos planes para cancelar clases para la segunda vacuna, pero vamos a trabajar con los padres para que no sea una excusa que the absence would be an excuse. So we're not. The question is, are we planning to cancel class for the second shot? We're not. Actually, what I really want to do is work with Dr. Arwady around giving guidance to families about how to time that second shot. Voy a trabajar con la doctora Arwady para dar más información a los padres para que puedan planear esa segunda vacuna, porque sabemos que tenemos más días de Thanksgiving que va a llegar y también las Navidades. So we want to work with Dr. Arwady just to give guidance to parents around how to time that second shot, especially with Thanksgiving coming and shortly thereafter the Christmas holidays.
And can I just add briefly to that? The city, for example, every Saturday and Sunday, excepting the week of Thanksgiving, really starting the 13th and 14th, and then going all the way into January, will be having some of these larger peds clinics available, which will also take adults at city colleges all around the city, just like we did for adults. So the first ones of those will be the 13th and 14th. Kids will be able to do second doses at that. We felt that it was important to have a weekday, recognizing that there are pediatric offices that don't always have weekend hours, really wanting to make this stand out. It's an opportunity for parents to take their kids for that first dose, but we've got plenty of capacity to make sure that those second doses are done, and weekends are going to be a big part of that plan, not just the cities, but really with providers all the way into January.
Well, and Eric Rum from WGN on topic.
And could you just go back, Mr. Martinez, just and say the answer to his question in English? all the way through?
Okay, so sure. So the question was, will we be canceling classes for the second day? And so we don't have any plans to cancel classes. I only know enough, just working with Dr. Arwady about the timing of the second shot, but I know that there's a little bit more flexibility on the timing. And so what I want to do is work with Dr. Arwady to make sure all of our parents have that information about how to plan that second shot, especially as we have the Thanksgiving holidays coming and then shortly thereafter the Christmas holidays. So we will be providing a lot of information to families around how to plan for that second shot. But we don't have plans to cancel classes, and any absence that occurred because of the second shot would be an excused absence.
And if you could stay at the podium just for a second, not taking away from the importance of getting kids vaccinated, as you've all spoke of here, just in correlation to next Friday, is it true that there was going to be a massive shortage of staff in CPS schools due to personal days, and is that one of the reasons why this day was chosen?
Yeah, we don't have any indicators that was going to be the case. I'll tell you, I would never have canceled classes. In fact, I just don't do that. I actually, once we have a calendar, I know how much parents plan around that calendar. We just don't do that. I don't do that. The only reason that I did that is because we just got approved for 5 to 11-year-olds. And after talking to Dr. Arwady, talking to our team members, we said, look, we need to right now make an investment for the rest of the school year, and the best way to do that is to make sure that our staff are able to get their children vaccinated, and that we can free up our families to be able to, at least for the children not having classes, to be able to get their children vaccinated, because we're still quarantined children. Yo nunca cambio los calendarios. Cuando ya están estos, yo sé cómo los padres planean sus días y su tiempo con esos calendarios de la escuela. La única razón que cambiamos, que cancelamos clases el viernes, quiero mandar un mensaje a todos nuestros padres, todos nuestros empleados, la importancia de empezar a proteger a nuestros niños. It is really about a message about the importance about starting to protect our children, especially right before the holidays are coming. When we know, I've seen it, cases rise after holidays, and so it's just so important for us that we make that investment now for the rest of the school year.
Thank you very much. That concludes our on-topic questions. Let's move on to Mary Ann Ahern from NBC5.
I wonder if Mr. Martinez, as well as the mayor, would comment on the school facilities chief who has been taken out after reports that the schools were so dirty.
So one of the messages that I want to send to all of our community is that we're going to hold ourselves accountable. I won't discuss about specific staff; those are personnel matters. But what I will assure you, whatever challenges are in the district, we are going to make the changes we need to make to hold ourselves accountable. It is unacceptable to me, whether it's issues around the facilities. I was very disturbed even about how not having our contact tracing, our COVID testing up and running. The mayor has been disturbed about that. My commitment to our board, to the mayor, to the parents and the community, we're going to hold ourselves accountable, and I will make changes as needed. And again, just know that that's going to be the way we're going to work.
You already have someone in place. How will it be different?
Yeah, so we do have Ivan Hansen, who has a strong track record. In fact, he worked with the city before managing facilities. He's been managing our capital program. What's great is he also has access to multiple vendors to help us as we're short on staffing and custodians. But again, this is about a message about us holding ourselves accountable.
Mayor, can you give us an update? As we spoke to the governor earlier this week, the FBI had issued subpoenas in the Loretto hospital investigation. Has the city received any, and have you all cooperated?
You're asking if we've received any subpoenas? I'm not aware that we've received any subpoenas, but yes, we are cooperating.
And in what way are you cooperating? If not subpoenas, what then is what?
They've asked individuals questions about things related to Loretto. I don't want to go any further because there is an ongoing federal investigation, but of course we've cooperated.
All right. When you say they, who is they?
I'm not going to go any further than what I've gone right now.
Kai Martin, NBC5.
Hey, Mayor, I have a question for you about the Chicago Park District Board President, Avis Lavelle.
Mm-hmm.
What's your confidence level in her leadership and her response to the scandal in the Park District, saying that she didn't know what was going on and she trusted Kelly?
Well, let me start where what I think is important this week, that young women who came forward were finally validated, both between the Park District, the acting IG, and the outside counsel. They identified a lot of problems that validated the concerns that these young women brought forward. And that, to me, is the most important thing that's come out of this week. We cannot have a situation where young women in particular, but any person in a workplace, is talking about abuse bullying, and God forbid, sexual abuse, sexual assault, and those concerns and complaints are not taken seriously. I'm very disappointed and distressed to see what has happened and unfolded in the lifeguard program. And the thing that I've tasked Interim General Superintendent Rosa Escareno to do is to look across the Park District, not just at one particular program, to make sure that anything like this can never happen again. I'm disappointed in what we've seen, and I think this week's announcements clearly show that the former General Superintendent repeatedly lied, and repeatedly lied publicly about what he knew, when he knew it, and what actions that he were taken. And I also want to say we can't live in a world where people are retaliated against because they have stepped forward and tried to do the right thing, and that hasn't happened. So I think that is, to me, some of the biggest takeaways from this week. Regarding Board Chair Avis Lavelle, I will say this. Avis Lavelle has given a lot of service to the city over decades, stretching in different departments, different mayors, and different opportunities where she has served. I know that this has been a very trying time for her personally, professionally, and very difficult on her family. My expectation is that she will be making a decision relatively soon about what her future will be with the Park District, and I'm sure you'll hear from her at that time.
One more quickly,
Sure.
On a different topic, totally different.
Okay.
Chicago Casino.
Mhm.
Please tell us the timeline and what your top sites are.
Well, I can't tell you the second question, which is top sites, and I won't do that until we make a final decision. But I will say that I'm very excited by the proposals that we got a week ago. I think they were all very interesting, very robust, well thought out. Our team is still going through and analyzing them. Our expectation is that we will bring the various respondents in and let them do presentations, and that I would like to get a finalist to recommend to the Illinois Gaming Board, excuse me, sometime in the first quarter of next year. We're very, very interested in moving this process along as expeditiously as possible, because, as you know, the revenue from that casino will fund our police and fire pensions, and no time like the present for that.
All right, Roseanne Tellez, Fox 32.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No question. We'll go with Heather Sharon, WTTW. Go ahead, Heather.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi, how are you?
I'm playing a little bit of pool reporter, so if you'll bear with me.
All right.
I asked Avis Lavelle after the reports were released how she or Interim Superintendent Rosa Escareno could reassure parents and girls who are part of the lifeguard program that they would be protected, and these sort of abuse allegations would not be handled in the way that they were handled if the board and President Lavelle remains in place. What do you say to parents who are now worried about their girls who work for the Park District?
Well, look, I think it's a bigger issue than perhaps the frame of your question. I know there are kids in the city who regard themselves as Park District kids that started going to the Park District at an early age, participating in a range of different programming throughout the course of the year, in the summer. Many of those kids come back and work as volunteers and then as paid staff. So the Park District has a long history of really supporting kids all across our city. And I want to make sure that there can never, again, be any question that every single Park District program, not just the lifeguard program, but every single program is run with the highest level of integrity and making sure that kids' safety and learning and being in a nurturing environment is put front and center. And clearly what this investigation regarding the lifeguard scandal is that we've got work to do. The brand of the Park District, no question whatsoever, has been hurt. And we have an obligation to assure our parents that their kids are safe and will learn and thrive and have fun at the Park District. I send my daughter to the Park District. So I'm speaking not just as a mayor, but as a parent of a kid who has benefited from Park District programming. And clearly, what we had heard before, that we wiped the slate clean, we put in new systems and controls, that just wasn't true. And so Rosa Escareno, I have great confidence in her. I have great confidence in the team that she's brought in. And that is her primary charge, is to make sure that there are systems and controls in place. And as CEO Martinez said, we have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to hold ourselves accountable because we're dealing with children. That is first and foremost, and I think everybody understands that important message. I've been very emphatic in my conversations, both with Park District personnel, but also with board members, that that has to be the rule of the day, period. And we've got to move forward and make sure that there are systems in place, that we hold ourselves accountable, and if anybody deviates from that, that there's real, swift accountability for it, because we can't tolerate anything less than that.
Staying on that topic, from Mariah Wolfel of WBEZ, do you think it was appropriate for Avis Lavelle to text State's Attorney Kim Foxx? And does that need an investigation in and of itself of the Park District Board and their specific conduct?
Look, the State's Attorney is conducting, I think, a fulsome investigation, and I think a lot of things will be covered, particularly regarding board interactions, and I expect that will be covered in the State's Attorney's work.
This one's from me again. Before the school year started,
I heard you had fun the other day at the press conference.
I did. Before the school year started, parents were assured that their students would be tested once a week, and that has not happened. And now Dr. Arwady and CEO Martinez says that that will not happen and that it's not necessary and should never have been promised. Are you concerned that parents who relied on that promise will now have second thoughts about trusting the city and the health department to get their kids vaccinated?
No, I think you're conflating a lot of things. Look, I don't need to speak for Dr. Arwady or for CEO Martinez, but I will. Throughout this pandemic, we have been very transparent, very forward with everyone, and parents included, to make sure that we're providing them with the information that they need to protect themselves as individuals, but also for their children. We have a very thorough, very well thought out vaccination distribution plan that we've implemented first for adults, starting in mid-December of last year, then with the 12 to 17-year-olds, and now with the 5 to 11-year-olds. I have every confidence that we're going to be able to execute at a very high level, because we have partnerships, and we've learned a lot over the course of this now almost last year about what works, how we can lean into our strengths, what we need to do to make sure that families are getting vaccinated, where we go and follow the data to make sure that we're reaching those most vulnerable communities and individuals. So I have every confidence that the plan for 5 to 11-year-olds will go forward and go forward in a way. But look, any plan won't work if it's static. So we always listen. We always look at the data. We see what we're seeing on the ground, and we'll make the adjustments as necessary. But the plan itself, I think, is very well tested, because we've done it in partnership with community stakeholders, local healthcare providers, and just as you heard, there's been a lot of planning that's gone into place now for months, knowing that this moment would come. So I think we're ready, and parents should have every confidence.
From Fran Spielman of the Sun-Times, are you prepared to sign a new ward map with fewer than 18 wards with a majority of black voters?
I think that's a question that's premature at this point. I don't think the final decisions have been made yet on what that map looks like. I've been very clear about the fact that there's got to be some public process for the maps, but we're not there yet.
One more from the Daily Line.
Sorry, let her have one more.
Sports betting ordinance that will receive a subject matter hearing. Are you concerned that if that's approved, it would cannibalize that Chicago casino we were just talking about?
Well, I think
from the Daily Line.
Yeah, I think you'll have to wait to see what the testimony is on Monday.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.